as a project manager, you've probably come across a toxic team member that has a really bad attitude. Now, you need to address this. And in this video, we're going to talk about the strategies you need to make sure you can turn the tide on this bad attitude. How to spot bad attitude. Recognizing in your project team members' bad attitude early on in your project is going to help you out tremendously. Here are some signs to watch out for. Negative body language, resistance to feedback, frequently complaining or blaming others, lack of collaboration, gossiping or spreading negativity, missed deadlines or poor quality work, lack of initiative or enthusiasm, resistance to change in project plans, procedures, or team dynamics. So it is important for you to really nip this in the bud so it doesn't spread into something much larger that, believe you me, you do not want to be handling, that you recognize these signs. And as soon as they happen, you need to address it. So now let's talk about those strategies on how to address the signs that you now recognize and have to course correct with your bad team members. Now, before we get into those strategies on how to deal with bad team members, this here you need to have, which is the 6 basics you need to know about projects. How do you get this? Go in the comment section and write free download and we'll send you the free PDF. Act now, nip it in the bud. Okay, why are we doing all of this, Adriana? Because if you do not deal with bad attitudes on your project teams, things will escalate and you want to prevent that from happening. So you want to stop the escalation. You want to ensure and continue you have good positive team dynamics and good behavior and positive behavior from your team. And you want to make sure that your project stays on track. And if you don't, bad behavior totally runs away. And worse yet, it may allow for other people to think it's acceptable. So how do we deal with this? We're going to go into the first big tip that you need to be aware of. Dig into the problem. When you have a team member who has a bad attitude, you cannot make assumptions, okay? That will kill you. You will be shooting yourself in the foot and you're going to totally have issues if you do that. You have no idea where people are coming from. You have no idea why people have this bad attitude. It could be for many reasons. Maybe they have something going on in their family life which is really traumatic and they just don't understand or realize that they're coming in with a bad attitude because they're dealing with something really major in the personal side. Maybe it's also work. Maybe there's something else politically going on that they're now coming into this project, and unfortunately, you know, there's a skill set to, I say, checking your baggage at the door, which is your emotional baggage. Not everybody knows how to do that. And so maybe they're coming into the project that way. Do not assume. You have to dig and you have to find out. And when you dig, you have to do it with compassion and empathy. Again, no assumptions, no judgments. So how do you do this digging? Well, you already know the person has a bad attitude. You have to schedule a one-on-one meeting with them. And then you have to bring them to the table. And then you have a conversation. And I know this can be really hard, but one of the things that I do, and I actually, my coaching students, I teach them this technique is, you know, we use an AAR, after action review, in our projects at specific milestones, ends of projects, very critical paths to ensure what are we supposed to do, what have we done, what can we do better. You can do the same technique with individuals as well if there's a particular problem. So you can then address, okay, what are we supposed to be doing? So what are they supposed to be doing? What actually is happening? That's where you bring up the bad attitude. And then you leave this open as to what can you do to course correct it. So someone comes in, hey, I need to have a one-on-one meeting with you. So they come in and you can say, hey, Tiffany, you know what? I just want to bring to your attention, I'm noticing that you're either late, there's a little bit of, you know, talking back in the meetings. People are picking up on it. I'm getting some feedback in that way. I want to chat with you about this. How can we resolve this? And is there anything I can do to help remove your roadblocks? And by coming at it from that perspective, and again, depending on what the bad attitude is, etc., that may just be something like, wow, they didn't even realize it. Or maybe they go, wow, I didn't realize it was coming through. And again, through empathy and compassion, you can find out what's the best way to do this. Do they need additional training? Maybe they're just not feeling confident in their skill set. Maybe they need a little bit of extra time and they didn't feel comfortable in telling you. So maybe you then look at the project plan. You go, okay, I know we have these things due for you. What would be good for you and for the project from a standpoint of us pushing out these action items? And let's understand how it impacts other people. So now you're working with them. But in order to work with anybody, you first have to find out what the problem is, and you have to dig, but you have to do it in a professional manner, a compassionate manner, one without judgment, and one that's bringing the person involved into the solution. Before we jump into the next tip, watch this. For a deep dive into the essentials of running successful projects, I'd love for you to join one of my Slay programs. Slay Project Management is an online course with step-by-step videos, tools, and templates for the full project lifecycle. Or go pro with Slay Pro. Everything in Slay plus weekly group coaching calls with me so you can tackle your real-world scenarios and issues to get on the right track. Ready to level up? Check out the details below. Set clear expectations from the beginning and provide constructive feedback. Okay, what do I mean by this? Ideally, when we're dealing with bad attitude from a team member, it's usually something that's happening in the moment. We need to address it. Obviously, we have to dig into it. But how do we even try to ensure that this really doesn't happen? Well, we have to set up clear expectations in the beginning. When you kick off your project, this is not just about the project and your charter and all the technical aspects of what you're going to be doing and who's going to be doing what. One of the key things, and I see this missed a lot, is the expectation you have of your team members. And by the way, the expectation that they have for you. So what are you expecting? You're expecting everyone to come in with having their work done. You're expecting everyone that if they're not agreeing with something, that they need to raise it up in the meeting in front of the whole team members in a very constructive and professional way, that they're not going to play any games. Again, you want to see what your past projects were like and ensure you build off of that. Because if you have past projects that had a lot of politics, a lot of bad attitude, you want to call that out on day one when everyone's really agreeable and you're basically laying it out. Calling it out without it even happening is going to go, whoa, I got to keep this in check. It really does work. So it's something to really consider about nipping in the bud. Now, great, you put all of those expectations out there. When someone has a bad attitude, because a bad attitude usually happens in a meeting, and if we ignore it, that's the problem. And yes, you have to dig into it and figure all that other stuff one-on-one, but you have to learn how to give constructive feedback in the meeting the moment it's happening. And the best way to do that is when you give everyone those expectations at the beginning of the meeting, you also ask, how should we deal with this if any of this stuff comes up, or we find that we're not following the agreed upon expectations that we have as behavior amongst each other as a team member? Ask them. And you'll be surprised. Someone may say, yep, we should call it out in the meeting. Maybe we have a word like a T, or maybe it's a safe word like behavior or something of that nature. And you as a project manager will have to lead the first time that it happens. Your team members won't do it, because it's going to feel weird, it's going to feel kind of gimmicky, but I promise you it's going to help tremendously. So when it occurs, you follow through with what everyone agreed to. And as I said, maybe it's a, hey, T, guys, remember what we agreed to in our kickoff with the expectations? It ensures that, okay, this is a safe environment and this is a respectful environment. And when you have a safe and respectful environment, people do change their behavior and they change it to match the environment that they're in. So that's why it's so important to really be clear with those expectations and have really good constructive feedback during the time that it's happened. So critical, because you want to ensure that you're emulating the behavior that you want everyone else to have as well. Call out conflict. All right. If someone has a bad attitude, the unfortunate part is this bad attitude is not necessarily directed always towards you or generally speaking to the project. It could be directed between two project members. Like I've seen it in projects where you're in a meeting, you have two project members going at it. Like, what the heck? Or worse yet, they're going at it outside of a project team meeting and it's like creating even havoc. Okay, this has to be addressed, and it becomes really important that you show and lead the way on how to do this. So if conflict is occurring, you have to bring those two people together. You have to understand, again, remember we talked about the digging, it becomes really important to understand what's going on, but you need to, particularly when it's happening in a meeting and there's an argument that's occurring and that argument is not where people are actually listening, is you need to stop them and you need to guide the conversation. You need to break it down and literally go to a whiteboard, right? Or a computer if you're on your screen and saying, guys, stop. What is going on here? We're not going to resolve this. Bring them back to the charter. Guys, let's read our charter and let's read what we're supposed to be doing here. Because a lot of times conflict is about a way of doing something or maybe adding something that maybe someone thinks is not part of the project. So you always go back to your charter and you say, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. Here's what's in, here's what's out. based on what you guys are arguing about, are we still aligned with what we're supposed to do? That in itself can nip it in the bud. So you have to go back to your documents. This is why I say, oh my gosh, have your documents ready, because your documents become tools and techniques to help you in these heated scenarios, because you're going to bring and remind everybody why we are here. And that is going to be really helpful to eliminating conflict between your team members. And by the way, if you want more techniques on conflict resolution, I have a video specific to that topic. And if you go Adriana Girdler conflict resolution in the search bar, that video will pop up. Keep your eye on the ball. Look, at conflict happens, bad apples happen, all of that stuff. But what's going to help you out tremendously is they will derail you a bit, because you're going to have to try to resolve that stuff. But just keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the project plan. Keep your eye on the timeline. You still have to balance that and ensure that things are moving forward and everybody else has what they need. As well as you can also bring to the attention of steering committee members sort of what's going on if you are having that conflict, and just let them know so that they're aware of it. So if you ever have to escalate that to them to truly resolve something because you just can't do it anymore. I've had that happen where I had a project team member who was really a bad apple, had a hidden agenda. Even though we did everything, like I had one-on-one conversations, figuring it out, truly she had her own agenda. And I brought it up to the steering committee when it was sort of happening, because you can feel it out. I said, look, I'm dealing with a particular project team member. I'm not going to let you know who it is just yet. We're trying to resolve it. However, if it escalates even more where I can't, I'm going to bring it to your attention. And that's literally what happened. I had to have a steering committee, and I brought up, by the way, remember when I told you that I was having some issues? Here's person blah, 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 and I'm having specific issues with them. I've tried all of this stuff. I now need you, steering committee, to hop in and help me out here. And one of the solutions was remove her from the team. And that's exactly what happened. I recognize that if you have a very small organization, that may be a difficult thing to do, but you need to keep your eye on the ball, keep the project plan going, and if you have to escalate it to steering committee, do so, but don't make it the first thing that you do. You need to notify, and you have to do your due diligence. But again, you're going to ensure that's all part of making sure that your project plan is moving forward. Okay, remember this that I told you earlier on in the video? It's a must. It's going to help you out tremendously. I created it just for you guys. How can you get it? Well, in the comments, put free download, or we actually have the link for you underneath this video. So definitely check it out. Watch this next video on how to be a strategic project manager that just motivates your team members. Really important. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. We'd love to hear from you. Provide some comments below, and please consider joining this amazing community. See you at the next video.